With a possible recession looming, it has never been more important to help your customers find you online. And if you're a local business, that usually means one thing: showing up in Google's Local 3-pack, which is those 3 businesses that appear at the top of local searches with the little map. Here's the good news. There is a ton of research and data that tells you exactly what you need to do to dominate these results. The problem is, most business owners just feel overwhelmed trying to do everything at once. So what you really need is to prioritize what to do first, second, and third to make the biggest impact in the least amount of time, which is exactly what I'm going to be showing you here today. And this all comes directly from Whitespark. They're the leaders in local SEO rankings. They literally write the report on this every single year, and they're constantly keeping up with the latest changes. So, oh, and I almost forgot, you can actually download this priority checklist so you can just follow it without taking any notes. Grab it in the link below in the description. Okay, so starting with priority number 1, you want to set your primary Google Business Profile category. So that is just your main category within your GBP that shows your most core service, like plumber or estate planning attorney. In this example here, we have landscape architect. So you're basically just choosing the most core service that you offer. Why is this so important? Well, it basically just helps Google know what your business does so that people can actually find you when they're typing that in. So it's super important to set that and to make it as descriptive and specific as possible. For instance, right here again, so rather than just landscaper, if they're actually more of a landscape architect, you want to put that here rather than just the more generic landscaping. And to do this, you're just going to log in to your account. You're going to find your business info and choose the one category that best fits what you primarily do, like we talked about. And for each item here, I am going to talk about the difficulty level too, just so you know how easy or hard something is. This one is super easy. It's probably the easiest thing on here. You just make one choice. I think the hardest part is just figuring out which is the most specific version of what you do. Once you do that, it's literally just a matter of getting to this part in your profile, and it's a drop down. You don't type it in yourself. It's got like 4,000 choices that are already there for you to choose from. You just choose the one that works the best. Okay, priority 2, we have your secondary categories. So if here we chose landscape architect, next you're just going to choose additional categories that also go with what you do, that might be a little more, side services or anything like that you offer. And for instance here, maybe our landscape architect is also a landscape lighting designer. Maybe that's a service that they offer too. So you just pick that. So if you're a plumbing business, maybe you would choose drain cleaning as another example. So why is this one important? Well, it lets you appear for a wider range of searches, right? And wider range of services. Not everybody is going to type in landscape architect, right? If they're looking for lighting designer, that might be what they type in, and now you get to be found for that too. So this one is really easy to do too. And the way you do it is you're just going to find underneath your primary category here, you're going to find this button that says add another category. You're just going to click on that, and then this will open up, and that's when you're going to choose that. And I recommend choosing maybe about 5 or 6. Like, don't choose anything that doesn't honestly line up with what you do. Like if this person doesn't do lighting design, you wouldn't want to choose it. But if you do, you want to choose everything that you can actually cover so that you give yourself the most amount of chances to be found, right? Okay, priority number 3, you just want to complete all the details in your listing, including your name, address, phone number, website, description, photos, all that good stuff. We're going to get to some of these in a bit. And the reason you want to do it is because having that complete profile makes your business look more reliable to your customers and to Google. People generally don't feel good about hiring a company that does the bare minimum. So the more complete you're going to be, Google takes note of that and they think, okay, this business actually took the time to fill everything out, whereas this business just did the bare minimum. They did their name and their address, and that's kind of it. The rewards go to the one who did more. And the how you do this, no big trick to it. You just want to check that everything's filled in with your most accurate and up-to-date info. And this one is also easy, just takes a little bit of time. Okay, priority number 4, NAP consistency. What is a NAP? It's basically just the acronym for your business's name, address, and phone number. And what this one's really all about is making sure it looks exactly the same everywhere it appears online. This includes your website, your Google Business Profile, and any other online directories. Think like Yelp Angie's List, Facebook, anything where your name and address shows up, it should look pretty much exactly the same from place to place. What do I mean by that? Well, let's take a look at all three of these right here. We have 123 Main Street, 123 Main Street. 123 Main ST. That's a mismatch. Something as small as that can kind of make your Google profile work a little less well. So you really want to make sure that they're all exactly the same as much as they can be. Why is this important? I think we can agree it's kind of stupid, right? Google should have this worked out a little bit better to where ST is known as the same as spelling out street. But for now, we got to play by the rules. All this really does is it just helps them verify your business. The way you do this is you just want to check out your website's contact page or anywhere on your website, if it's in the footer, wherever your address is shown. And of course, any listings, Yelp, Facebook, any of those kinds of places, you want to visit each one. You probably just do a Google search for your address, I would say, and then everything will pop up where you're listed, and you just have to go to each one of those and just check that they're all the same. If they're not, you need to make edits to the ones that don't match up. And I have this as easy here. I'm actually gonna say this is probably medium. It's not super hard, but it does take a little bit more effort than just changing something on your profile or choosing a category. So I'm not gonna put it in the same difficulty levels like choosing your business category, for instance. Okay, priority number 5, accurate business hours. This just means displaying your regular hours of operation as well as any special hours, for holidays, events, that kind of thing. You just want to make sure that your normal hours are accounted for, just like this. And then if there's a holiday or if you're going to be on vacation and the business is going to shut down for a week, make sure that's reflected, because having the correct hours helps your customers know when they can reach you, and they're likely to get upset if they come into your place of business or they call you and no one's there when it says you should be there. So if you've ever been to a restaurant that's supposed to be open and they weren't, you get the frustration. That's definitely happened to me a few times. So you don't want to be that business. Super easy to do this one. You just want to get into your dashboard and just find where it shows the hours and just choose them all, and then add those special hours whenever a holiday pops up or you go out of town. Number 6, you want to list all your services and products. So you just want to clearly detail the specific services or products you offer. Simple as that. Now the reason you want to do this is, yes, you do want to help your customers and Google understand what you offer, but here's where it gets better. The more services you list, the more you can increase your chances of showing up in those relevant searches. So in our example up here, we have artificial turf installation. So let's go back to our landscape architect, right? If you have artificial turf installation as a service, now people that are going to Google to type that in, your business can now magically show up for that. If you didn't have this, you probably wouldn't have shown up for it otherwise. How do we do this? You just get to the services or products section in your profile, and you want to list out each service. And if you can do prices, I would do that too, just because people generally are looking for that kind of information. And if you can provide it, you're just making this all more complete, which Google likes and your customers will like it too. And you want to give that clear description that includes relevant terms. So when I say relevant terms, I mean, here's where you can put in those keywords. So if we're going for artificial turf installation as a keyword phrase, you probably want to put it in right there too, right? It's just an extra factor to help you rank for it. And this one's easy too. The hardest part is just thinking about all the different services that you offer. Okay, moving on to number 7, high quality photos and videos. So you're basically just going to be uploading, nice looking images and short videos that show your work. And that's really important if you're the kind of business that's visual, right? If you're a contractor or a designer of some kind and people actually want to see the goods, you definitely want to lead with your images here. But if you're not that kind of business, let's say you're an accountant, right? It's not like people are judging you based on photos of the tax documents you're preparing for them. But even then, you still want to do this just to play by Google's rules. It's a little silly again, but just get creative. Include photos of you and your team. That helps. It makes it look like there's real people behind the business. You could even just use AI-generated images, that kind of thing. I would recommend, though, probably just using your phone or your camera to take your own photos of your team and of your work. Doing that is definitely going to capture some more customer interest because again, people want to see the faces behind the brand. And if you're a designer or our landscape architecture, they want to see what you've done. And this one's pretty easy too. Just take some photos, upload them. It's not much of a trick. Number 8, we have our Google Q&A feature. So this lets your customers ask questions, but it also lets you ask, FAQs and put them right in here that you can answer proactively. So this is super powerful because everybody's got questions, right? This allows them to be able to ask the questions that they have and also see the answers right up front. And at the end of the day, it really just shows that you care. So how do you do this? Well, you're just going to access the Q&A section in your Google Business Profile, and you want to get the ball rolling, like I said, by posting those FAQs, and then you want to be sure you're responding really promptly to any questions that are coming in from customers. And I'd say this one's easy. It's really easy to get the ball rolling with those FAQs. Just think about what they are. It takes less than 5 minutes probably. And then when people ask you a question, you're going to get an alert about that. Just go in, answer it. And not only does that person get an answer, but now everybody else can see the answer to that question and that you cared enough to answer it in the first place. Okay, now it's time for number 9. Optimize your website title and meta description. So these are those little things that show up in search results that describe your page's content. So let's take a look at this example right here. This part up top in the blue, that is your page title. And this part right here is your page description. So you just want to make sure that both of these are optimized. And when I say optimized, I mean a couple things. You want to make sure that your service name, so basically right here, plumber, right? That's done. And location details in Dallas. And then you want to go a step further usually and add a little bit more, right? The trusted, affordable, 5-star rated. You're trying to add kind of like benefits right there as well. So it's not just the facts, it's also, here's what you're going to get, right? You're going to get a 5-star business or affordable. So you want to lead with all that kind of stuff too. And not only does this help, Google understand your site, it actually can improve your click-through rates. Because if you do this better than your competitor does, you are going to get more of those clicks. And you might be wondering, okay, Wes, this is not a map listing though. This is an organic listing that comes underneath the maps, and you're right. But the more you do this right and you get a higher share of the click-throughs than Google thinks you should, where you are. So let's say this listing right here is at number 5 on the page. And at number 5, Google would assume, okay, this listing is likely to get 10% of the clicks. But if they do all these things right and they make it enticing enough and enough people click to where they get 20% of the clicks, that is a positive factor for Google, and that's going to increase your chances of this listing being found higher up in the search engine rankings. It's also going to be a positive signal to get you kicked up in the map listings too. So that's why this is important. So this is pretty easy. It's just a really basic website editing task. So all you got to do is edit your homepage's title and meta description. And you just do this being logged into your website. And again, you want to naturally include those relevant keywords and your location plus benefits. So that's the key. Number 10 now, dedicated service location pages. So what you want to do is create these individual pages on your website for each major service or target area, like roof repair in Austin or drain cleaning in Austin, power washing in Austin. So all of these are separate pages. Now these pages offer, more detailed information for each service. So what you don't want to do is just have all these things on your homepage, right? You want to give each one its own opportunity to be found for its own service. And that's just going to boost your local search power right there. Now I would say this one's kind of medium difficulty, right? It's not a matter of just choosing something from a drop down. You actually have to make these pages. What you need to do is write specific content for each service page, including, the local details, benefits, all that good stuff. Now, this is easier than it used to be thanks to things like ChatGPT. All you really need to do is feed in your details and say, hey, ChatGPT, write me a service page that will rank well for, roof repair in Austin, for instance. And then you would do the same for all your other service pages. You don't have to write these anymore. You still have to make the page, but it gets a little easier. Number 11, encourage Google reviews. So you just want to be asking your customers to leave you reviews on your Google business profile after they're done working with you. So why do we want to do this? Obviously, it's good to have a lot of reviews. It helps, potential customers, build trust, and it just strengthens your overall online reputation to have them. And since it's all done through Google, it is a really high ranking factor these days to have as many good positive reviews as you can. Now, the way you would do this, unfortunately, is pretty manual, right? You just have to request reviews after completing a job. You just want to email them, text them, ask the people who you know you did particularly well for, who would be most likely to give you that positive review. You'll probably want to give them a direct link to be able to do it. The whole name of the game here is making it as simple as possible for people to do it. So this one's definitely in the medium category. It's not super hard, but it's a numbers game and you have to kind of keep up with it, right? Number 12, we are thinking along the same lines here. So not only do you want a high number of positive reviews, you want as high a star rating as you can possibly get. Why? No big mystery here, right? It's the same kind of thing. So Google, these are all done through Google. First of all, they reward the sheer number of them, assuming they're high. They're not going to reward you if you have like 20 million one-star reviews, right? That's not going to help you. But assuming your reviews are overall good, first they care about the number of them, right? Then secondly, after that, they think about what's that star rating. So if your competitor has, 4.6 reviews as an average and you have 40 and your average is 4.8, the advantage goes to you. So obviously you want to provide, excellent service, and again, you just want to keep up and you need to keep asking people for these reviews. So again, it's medium. It's really the same thing. It's no separate step than number 11 was. It's just different factors that Google considers. Okay, still sticking with reviews now, we have number 13. This is all about having keywords in those reviews. So the more the reviews that people leave contain the keywords of like the service provided, like for our landscape architect, if they put in the phrase landscape architect into the review somehow, that is going to be a positive lift in the results, as well as the area served. So if they can put in, landscape designer and they can put in Dallas somewhere, you're going to get better local SEO power out of it. And the reason this works, I think, is it just helps reinforce your service, basically, and your locality. So this one's a little tricky in the how. Basically, what you want to do is you want to encourage people when you're asking them for that review, you want to suggest that they mention the specific service that they received. That's going to help. What you can't really do is say, use this phrase verbatim. But if you say, I would like if you could mention the service you did, you increase the likelihood that they're going to say drain cleaning or whatever. So there's no guarantees it's going to work. Some of them will naturally say it, some of them won't. So I'm just going to keep it as medium because this is really all the same step, but you're just adding one more degree here. Number 14, moving away from reviews, you want to include a booking or appointment link if possible. So if you're the kind of business that does take appointments, you want to add a direct link or button on your profile to book those appointments. Now, not only does this make it easier for your customers to take immediate action, but it also, Google can see when people are booking these things. And it's like the more people book, the more Google takes notice, and it shoots you up as a result. So you just need to do this within your GBP, and you need to add the URL of the scheduling page. So let's say it's, your contact page. It would be abccompany.com/contact or whatever it is. It can't just go to your homepage. It needs to go to where they actually do the booking. And this one is actually pretty easy. It just involves copying and pasting a link. Okay, number 15. Now we get to a new category. List on major directories. We also call these citations. So a citation is just any mention of your business online. Remember the NAP. Any mention of your name, address, and phone number is considered a citation. So, places like Yelp, Facebook, Bing Places, I suppose, and Apple Maps, any of those, any directory, any social media, you want to go for as many as possible. It's a numbers game here. So a couple things to think about. You want to do all the major ones like that everybody can use, Yelp, Facebook, what have you, but you also want to search for any local directories, right? If you're in Dallas, every Dallas business directory, make sure you're listed. And if you're, like landscape architect again, make sure you're listed in every single home services and or, lawn care service directory. Think like Angie's List. I think it might just be called Angie now, Home Advisor, that kind of thing. And this really just helps build your business's credibility. The more you're featured online, Google just thinks of that as like, okay, they're on 100 different websites, they must be kind of a big deal and trusted. So the important part, remember we talked earlier about consistency. You want to make sure that you're updating each listing with the exact same business name, address, and phone number as on your Google business profile. Now, this one is medium. It's not overly complicated. It does take time though. In fact, a lot of people, it takes up so much time that they end up kind of outsourcing this and hiring like a local business SEO company to basically create all these listings for them. Now we have number 16. This one's a little controversial. It involves kind of ratting out your competitors who are doing things wrong, removing any spam listings. So basically, you're telling on certain competitors who have either fake, duplicate, or misleading listings that could, yes, confuse customers, but at the end of the day, they could be stealing your spot. And if they're not doing things the right way, should they really be taking up a valuable space in the 3-pack? I would argue no. So let me show you an example of what I mean here with this listing that I found up top. See if you can spot what they're doing here. They're listed as a Better Plumber, an Absolute Plumbing Company. I don't know what an Absolute Plumbing Company is, but I'll tell you what I think they're doing. I think they're trying very hard to rank for the phrase plumbing company. And I checked them out. If you go to their website, that is not the name of their business on their website. So they have just inserted a keyword here, which you're not supposed to do. Another version of this that's super common would be if they called themselves a Better Plumber Denver, right? Which is probably not the name of their business, but they're trying to go for then the term Plumber Denver. So any business who's doing that, they're not supposed to be doing it according to Google's rules, and you can tattle on them. And you do that by using the Suggest and Edit feature on Google Maps. So you'd find their listing, you'll find that button that says Suggest and Edit, and then you would just submit a report with supporting evidence. So you'd probably want to take a screenshot of how they're billing themselves on their website. Because the actual rule here is you are not allowed to put a business name that is not the name of your actual business. So just find what they're actually calling themselves on their website, submit that as a screenshot, and it should be changed pretty quickly. It's medium because it does involve regular checks, but generally speaking, you should just maybe once a month go in and just see like who's above you, and if they're not playing by the rules, I'm not saying to be a narc, but it could help you. Okay, number 17, another category, quality backlinks. So you probably already know, if you know anything about SEO, that a backlink is just any other website linking to your website. And the reason this is important is backlinks act as basically like votes, right? That's how the thinking has always gone. If company A has 50 websites linking to them, there must be something there, right? There must be something that they're doing right, as opposed to this other business who has maybe 2 or 3 links, right? So they're essentially votes, and they definitely do count for a lot in organic SEO, right? Just normal SEO in the search engine listings. But in the past few years, these have been really important as well to the map listings. So in general, what helps an organic listing rank highly also helps in the map pack. So this is just another one of them, and it's actually really important. So you can join business associations that'll give you a link, like the Better Business Bureau, any local kind of chambers of commerce will generally link to you. The best way to do this, there's a couple good ways. Guest posts on local blogs or just any blog in your industry. Basically, what that means is you'd get in touch with the blog. So you're a landscape designer, you get in touch with every blog that talks about landscaping, right? And say, hey, I've got this idea for an article. I'll write it for you for free. Then in your little about the author box, it would link back to your website. That's the idea here. Problem is, this is pretty hard to do, right? Most people will not respond to that request. It's just gotten a lot harder over the years with a lot of spammy requests for that kind of thing. So what I actually recommend here is just outsourcing this. It tends to be worth every penny to just pay a company that specializes in building backlinks because it's very time consuming. I'm just warning you right up front. Okay, now number 18, descriptive business name. So this kind of goes back to a few steps ago where I said to kind of rat people out for having an unofficial business name, if you will. So remember how they were trying to go for the term plumbing company in their business name, even though that wasn't their business name. So ideally speaking, what you want to have in an ideal world, is a business name that naturally reflects your service, like Smith Plumbing and Heating, right? If these are keywords you're trying to go for, it helps to have the keywords in your title. So if you're a dog boarding kennel and you want to rank for the term dog boarding, it helps to have that in your actual business name. Not only does that help customers understand what you do, but it definitely kind of supports you online as well. I would say this is difficult because there's not a lot you can do about your business name other than legally changing it, right? So it's hard to just insert these phrases into a name that doesn't have them, because then you're going to be dealing with Google's wrath if someone rats you out, right? So you generally want to use your legal business name and only rebrand if it fits your strategy and will really help you rank for another word. So you kind of have to go legal here. At the very least, I'm not recommending you do this, but you could possibly stretch this by not legally changing your business name, but making sure, at least on your website and everything that's public facing, your new business name is reflected in all those places. Number 19, we have your physical address in your target city. So let's say you're that landscape architect, right? And you want to rank for landscape architect Chicago, but you live in Elmhurst, Illinois, which is a suburb. So you will have a very hard time ranking in Chicago if you are not in Chicago. So I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This can be pretty hard to do if you are not already in that city. You literally have to either move or set up an office or branch in the target city and then, update your information across everything. In other words, it is a pretty major commitment. So not a lot you can do with this one. I'm bringing it up here because it is a very important ranking factor. In fact, the only reason that this is so far down the list is because of how hard it is to actually do it. It's not low-hanging fruit. Okay, now we have number 20, proximity to customers. This is very much along the same lines as our last one, but proximity in this case refers to how close your business is to the people who are searching. So let's say our last guy, our landscape architect, he's in Elmhurst, wants to rank in Chicago. So if I'm here in Chicago and I'm typing in landscape architect into my phone, he is very unlikely to show up because he's not near me. However, someone doing the same search from like a block away or a mile away from him, he's very likely to rank for that person. Now, this one is pretty controversial and pretty dumb, if you ask me, because not every business should be this way. It's not like this landscape designer is a restaurant where you're just looking for the closest one. He travels out to you, so why should it matter that he is the closest to you? I've been scratching my head about this one for years. Google has so far not changed it. You'd think based on the business category, it would be very different, but unfortunately it's not. Being physically close to your customers just improves your chances of appearing. Unfortunately, that's the way it is. And there's not much you can do about this, right? This one you really can't do much about because while you could move to the city you want to be in or the city center of where you want to rank for, you can't be close to every single person who's searching. It's impossible. So the only thing I would steer you toward here is just focus your marketing efforts on your local area, right? So if you're in Elmhurst, go for Elmhurst. But honestly, with search behavior changing and AI taking over so much of what Google actually shows people, there is a different search opportunity that you should really be thinking about leaning into if you want to not only be found, but make closing the deal so much easier too. And the opportunity I'm talking about is YouTube. But before you think that that can't work for local businesses, I think Bobby's story might just change your mind. So to see how he uses YouTube to absolutely crush his competition and grow his business in ways he never thought possible, click this video right here. I think you're going to be pretty inspired by what's possible if you only gave it a shot. So click here and see what it could do for you too.